Welcome everyone, I'm Murdercat. Today in the world of Splatoon 2, we're going to be talking about Splatfests. There are many great things about Splatfests that I wish were implemented in the game more, but there are also things about this event that make me want to hurl my Switch across the room. With that being said, let's get started, shall we? Since purchasing this game, I've had the opportunity of participating in 6 Splatfests. The most recent Splatfest was Octopus vs. Squid. This Splatfest was region-wide, which makes sense considering the Octo expansion came out in June. But in general, each region gets different themes for Splatfests. There are 3 regions total: North America, Oceania, Europe, and of course, Japan. For the most part, Europe and North America tend to have the same Splatfests at the same time, with the exception of a few that are region-specific. Japan, on the other hand, seems to run completely independent Splatfests at completely different times. There is no obvious reason for this. My personal theory is the culture in Japan is vastly different from American European culture, therefore they tend to have more region-specific references to things like Hello Kitty versus Cinema Roll, and My Melody versus Pom Pom Purin. There are 5 titles you can earn during a Splatfest: Fanboy, Fangirl, Fiend, Defender, Champion, and King Queen. The more you play, the better your title. The purpose of titles are to determine your winning of Super Sea Snails. These snails can be used to increase slots on gear or completely re-roll abilities on fully leveled up gear. Splatfests are generally the only time sea snails are available, but as a pat on the back, the 2 cats, Judd and Little Judd, give you 1 snail whenever you level up. Whether your team wins or loses, everyone gets some sea snails. Since Splatfests are only 24-hour events, working your way up the system can be a bit challenging. Let's take a look at the numbers. Fanboy Fangirl requires no experience to achieve since it is the starting title. From there, it's 10 experience for Fiend, 35 for Defender, 85 for Champion, and 184 for King and Queen. During Splatfests, the most experience you can expect to gain per match is about 2 to 5 points. Assuming you win every match for about 37 matches in a row, you can get to King Queen pretty quickly. But if that were the case, people wouldn't grind it out for Splatfests. The Switch is known to have a touchy Wi-Fi card, so most of us who play Splatoon 2 do so with a wired connection. But even with a wired connection, Splatfest disconnects can be a huge bust. I've gone through entire matches with no problems, only to be disconnected during the win-loss screen and gain no experience points. The amount of times that I've been dropped and seen others dropped from matches is ridiculous. On top of that, if you disconnect 2 times in a row during a match, you're slapped with a 5-minute no-play penalty. With the amount of people playing during Splatfests, you would think that the Nintendo servers would be prepared for the amount of traffic it receives, and yet, here we are. There's nothing more frustrating than receiving a connection unstable message, knowing that you're about to get kicked and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. At least during Splatfests, maybe drop somebody in the middle of a match to help fill the 3v4 gap. That way it feels somewhat fair. During Splatfests, you usually battle against other teams. Most of the time. 9 times out of 10, it seems like you're battling your own team. During the Squid v Octopus Splatfest, I found myself squaring up against my own team countless times. This isn't a huge issue, but it can seem like you aren't making a difference in helping your team win. Splatfests are better with friends, but what if you don't have 4 friends? Well, I guess you're playing by yourself. Unlike normal turf war where you can jump into a friend's team if there's an open lobby spot, during a Splatfest, you're limited to creating a room and having to have 4 people in order to jump into a game. It's a bit of a bummer, but maybe if we ask Nintendo nicely, they'll fix it? Wish you could play something other than Turf War? Well, you can't. Ranked and League aren't available to play during Splatfests. If they were, then no one would participate in the Turf War. The same goes for Salmon Run. People love Salmon Run, myself included, and it's already a huge bummer that it's locked behind certain times. Sometimes it does happen to coincide with a Splatfest, but it usually closes before a Splatfest is over or opens right before the fest ends. If any of these modes were open during a Splatfest, the participation in a Turf War would tank way more than it already does. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always super excited to see what kind of mystery station will be active for Turf Wars. Shifty Station is a map specially designed for Splatfests. It usually includes some gimmicks like skyhooks, ride rails, or in the most recent Splatfest, boss tentacles. It's nice to see these things used outside of the story mode on a map in Turf War. I'd love to see some more of these things implemented in some new maps. For example, in the newest map, Ancho V Games, we see the propeller lifts finally implemented in a map. It's so creative, and I wish that Nintendo would bring some of those things we see in the story mode out into the actual game. All in all, Splatfests are still a pretty fun event to participate in. It gives us a chance to see Pearl and Marina outside the radio studio, and a chance to farm for ability chunks with Splatfest tees if you're real into perfect gear. After participating in a few Splatfests myself, I generally only level up to about Defender or Champion, considering the payout is still pretty good. I mostly just use it as an opportunity to farm ability chunks now. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you liked this video, splat that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next round.